What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be making a full review for the Romancing Festival Esper Gal banner that brings Esper Gal, a damage dealer and utility character, Apollo, a wheel buffer and overdrive damage dealer, an arsenal, a character with utility for wheel debuffing and poison for Remembrance battle. Let's start talking about Esper Gal first. Well, she's a mage with the fire element. Her endurance is 73%, it's kind of common for mages to have low endurance. She has a very nice combo of very big intelligence, high agility and high will. She also has some good love because she can heal via inheritance and even via her own passives. First skill is called Burning Aura. All hit attacks will increase by 20%. All of her attacks have heat effect, so this will be active at all times. And when she attacks with heat attacks, she recovers BP by 2, so it will trigger on all her skills. And when attacked by an attack that will cause resist, damage taken will reduce it by 25%. That's sad because this is her only damage reduction passive and it relies on having resist, so you need to equip her accordingly and have 35 resistance to the element that the enemy attacks. Moving on, we have Genius Esper. On the start of a turn, she grants herself a damage block for one time and one turn, so the first hit won't do damage to this girl. Depending on boss behavior, this can be huge, because the boss can use the strongest attack on the first hit, and in the second hit it's not so strong, or even then you are just decreasing damage. She also recovers BP by 1. That means that she has access to 6 BP and damage block to help her reduce damage taken in long fights. And then when attacking with an attack that can be either a skill or a spell, even a normal attack, she will have a 50% chance to chase with telekinesis. That comes from her UDX style. This is a B power attack with 27 mod, that's just close to A power, with heat and shadow, that recovers HP of all surviving allies by around 230. It will also trigger that 2 BP when attacking with heat attacks when this happens. And 50% chance is very okay. It's not reliable as your main healer, don't think about this. But when she gets the chase mechanic, she'll get 8 BP in that turn, while also helping the party with healings. So you can also just use telekinesis if you want, and then use the chase telekinesis to increment the healing. But I don't think that she is so good as healer anymore, because we already have Chef Polka that can sometimes be enough, and we also have the rapier version of Katarina that heals always twice or 3 times even. So it works, but it's not the best thing we have now. Her focus is different, but I'll be discussing later. And the last passive is called Staff Arcana 5. When attacking with staves, damage will be increased by 30%. And when landing a weak attack, damage will be increased further by another 20%. Well, this means that these characters have 70% damage increase when attacking weak targets. And you will usually be attacking weak targets with her, or if you are not, just 50%. And with the chance to chase, the damage can be good, but nothing stellar. Moving for our skills, we have Wind Plus. For free, you have a skill that hits for heat and shadow with the power and 13 mod, that's good enough. But it's a random attack. This is an amplify over Bertrand's skill, and well, it's not that good because if you have multiple enemies, you don't know who you are going to hit. But if there's just one boss, that's no problem. Now, the second skill is called Witch Trick. For 8 BP, you have a triple S attack with heat damage and 66 mod. For the cost, it's already strong enough. Well, but it has more stuff. When the attack lands, removes all targets buffs for all status. Well, this is just like Dark Wash. Remember Rocbouquet? She has it on her S style. You can amplify. Dark Wash has the same mod, same power, but 10 BP. Now you have the same damage, just different element with 2 BP less. That's power creep in this game. There are other characters that have access to Dark Wash like Rouge, Red Mage, so there's many options in the game, but the thing here is she gets 6 BP per turn and can use this many times. If she gets the chase attack, she gets 8 BP. On average, she has 7 BP per turn when you consider the chase. She can keep using this many times, especially if you have someone giving BP to the party as well. You can keep casting this. It's better than Dark Wash because of the cycle. Then the second effect, when the attack lands, it will debuff all status by 15%. Wait, what? Yeah, exactly. So, remember the latest version of Rocbouquet from UniverSe? She has this skill called Lightning of Darkness. It's also 8 BP. Nice, same cost. This time it's double element. Okay. It brings attack down. That decreases damage taken by 15%. This is nice because this is stacked with Morale down, for example, and any other support effects. It also debuffs all status by 15%. So, the attack from Esper Gal is stronger, has the same cost, but it switches the attack down for a buff break. So you are getting 2 effects that are important in boss fights in a skill that has only 8 BP cost in a character that has very good BP generation. So I have to say that if you have Rocbouquet with access to both Dark Wash and that Lightning of Darkness attack, you are set. You will be able to handle situations, but having both effects on a character, it's nice, because the attack down is not even the most important thing from Rocbouquet. It's the all status debuff. These things can work in some challenges because the debuff value is not that high. Some enemies have some dare zones where they will start using the 5 weakness if you debuff them too much. Sometimes just bringing Rocbouquet was enough to keep debuff working without seeing the 5 weakness. Maybe if you bring 2 people, like the combination of Esper Gal and Rocbouquet together, will trigger the 5 weakness faster. Depends on boss behavior and code. But just to say, it's a very nice thing to have if you skip it Rocbouquet. But if you have Rocbouquet, this is more of an extra. You don't need both. Having both would be nice depending on the situations. Then the last skill is called Haunted Pumpkin. For 10 BP you have a full AoE attack with Heat and Shadow. And that's it. It's just a damage attack, no additional effect. The good thing is that you will be able to use Haunted Pumpkin on turn 1 and then on turn 3. If you are using Esper Gal in Final Island or in farming scenarios, you can bring her for 2 strong AoE attacks and then bring someone to attack on the second turn so that you can farm. Not the best farmer, but still works for some newcomers. Still on the topic of farming, you can actually use Esper Gal to solo some story stages, but with Witch Trick. Why? She gets 6 BP per turn, and if you use the Dragon Stance Axe formation, she is capable of using Witch Trick 3 times in a row. Triple S power with 66 mod and 70% damage passives will be enough to kill some enemies. And in some events, it may work here and there, but not always. But at least on story mode, if there's just one enemy with 2 hit, she will be able to work. Now let's discuss Inheritance, and the only one that matters is from her UDX style. Well, I said about telekinesis if you really want her to be a healer, but like I said, there are better healers right now in the game. She cannot be your main one. There is the Dimensional Aura spell. This is a 10 BP fast attack with double S power and 50 mod. The damage is not that great, but it gives Guard Up Medium, decreasing damage taken by 25%, and 2 different defense boosts. One that is for cold damage, decreasing cold damage by 35%, and the other that is for shadow damage, decreasing shadow damage by 35%. So the shields will stack with Guard Up, and that means that if you are facing a boss that deals cold damage and or shadow damage, this can help you survive well. But when it was released with the UDX style, it was a little unpractical because she only gets 5 BP per turn, and then she had to skip 1 turn and then use Dimensional Aura on the next turn. Still work it for some fights, but now she has access to much more because it's at least 6 BP and 8 when you get the Telekinesis Chase, meaning that she won't have to skip many turns and will keep the guard ups and defense boosts active most of the time. You can also just inherit Healing Rod if you do not have a Reviver in your party. She can work for some desperate situations. This healing is super strong. It will revive someone from 0 to max HP if you level this up to max. Now, when comparing Esper Gal to Rocbouquet, there are two big differences between the characters. Esper Gal usually does more damage, while Rocbouquet usually receives less damage. It's a more defensive version because of Gobby Hook switch. When she attacks with shadow attacks, she gives herself an attack boost, increasing damage by 15%, stacks, and 2 BP. So she gets at least 5 BP per turn and 6 if she's landing a weak attack. And then she also gives herself a defense boost, decreasing damage taken by 15% when attacking with lightning attacks, and recovers her HP by around 220. So you have many different effects when you are using Lightning of Darkness. And she also has intrinsic staff that decreases damage taken by 40% when resisting. Well, Esper Gal reduces only 25%. So you have a higher defense and even have defense boost when attacking. So she can even be used on a tank position to just tank some damage. She also has a revive spell that's free, better than the revive spell from Esper Gal. So having better defenses matters more in very hard challenges than having more damage, because in the end Esper Gal is still not a real nuker, but her damage should be considered. I saw some people using her and she's doing very nice damage. And having access to two very nice effects with an ABP skill is really good. So if you skip it Rocbouquet, you'll be able to do everything that Rocbouquet does in the meta right now with Esper Gal, without having to care about inheritances or anything. She's just a little less defensive, but still works very similarly. Hence why she's going to take a triple S grade, but if you already have Rocbouquet, it's pretty skippable. If you want both, it's okay, but it's just overkill. Well, as for JP, there are two other versions of Esper Girl. The next one is not really that good. She has Cure Fire that's good for inheritance because it deals damage and heal. Then she has a farm attack that hits for horizontal with heat and shadow. And a nuke attack that inflicts guard down and defense down and also heat weak to the enemy. And she also has heat ups and damage passives, but to be honest, this is skippable. The next one, that's almost 1 year in the future, has this skill that buffs intelligence before attacking. Void Plus is also available in Bertrand and Barthélemy. She has a skill that applies defense boost in a passive that can land BP when you get hit. And a skill that hits between 2 to 3 times and recovers HP every time it hits. So kind of a mix between all versions of Esper Gal. But that skill number 2 is exclusive to the current one. The next character is Apollo, and he has around the same endurance as Esper Gal. 97 agility is good enough, intelligence 120, and will 111. Very similar status for a character that acts like a mage, but it's not a mage. Apollo-like creator deals physical damage, so it's based on endurance. Moving on for passives, we have Energizing Guard. On start of a turn, we have a 25% chance to recover BP by 1 to all surviving allies, and then apply a defense boost that will decrease damage taken by 25% for that turn. Well, it's unreliable, and I much prefer a heal than a defense boost sometimes, because depending on the turn, you are already protecting yourself and you don't know if that defense boost is gonna matter, but at least you get the BP here and there once every 4 turns on average. The second passive is called Outstanding Talent. On the start of a turn, he grants himself Morale Up and Guard Up Small. Morale Up increases damage by 15%, and Guard Up reduces damage taken by 12. Well, those two values are pretty low, but he also grants himself 2 BP. I think the BP is the only thing that matters, because Morale Up and Guard Up don't stack with other casts of Morale Up and Guard Up. Then Matchless Magic. On the start of a turn, buffs own intelligence by 20%. It's nice because it's even before he attacks, and he also grants himself a defense boost that decreases damage taken by 30% less for that turn. So you have this 30% and then this 12%. The defense boost stacks with other stacks of defense boost and at least one guard up like he already does himself. But if you cast a guard up with higher value, it will overwrite this one for that particular turn. So I don't like this. Well, it looks like something that came from old design, but the remaining things from his kit is okay, besides the defense boost also relies too much on RNG. Now moving for our skills, we have Hide and Heal. 1 BP and 1 LP for E-power healing, but this one scales with the weapon power, so it's usually very strong, will heal from 0 to max, and also revives, and puts the target into stealth stance. That will just decrease the likeness of being targeted. Well, it's nice, but sometimes you just want to heal someone that needs to be attacked, so don't use him. Use him to heal your healers and supporters. The second skill is called Malicious Pumpkins. For 5 BP, you have a single target attack that hits for Heat and Shadow, a power and 30 mod. Okay, for 5 BP, cool. It also buffs all surviving allies will by 25% on max level. That's really good. And we have to discuss characters that can do something similar. Well, Matriarch buffs 4 different status. She is a tier beyond these characters, but people like the latest Liz has access to Aqua Bash Plus. It has B power, but it's 4 BP cost, but, well, Apollo gets 5 BP per turn, and Liz gets 4 BP per turn, so they have perfect cycles. She will do a column attack, the area is wider, and she will also buff Will by 25%. Well, Liz is better defensively. She has minus 25 and minus 30%, and she even counters, and she even gets other effects. So Liz overall is still a better Will buffer. You can also find the same skill on Nawal's daughter. In her first limited style, you can amplify and becomes the same thing. So if you have the newest versions of Nawal's daughter, you can just inherit and keep using it on auto as well. So it's more of a competition for these characters. They are not usually the main Will buffers in the party, although they can be. Usually people use Matriarch as the main Will buffer, or now Melissa. Melissa buffs Will, but she also buffs other status like Agility, Intelligence, and Charisma. Hence why they are probably the main buffers, because they can buff other status as well. Okay, so Apollo has competition, but the skill itself is nice, and if you skip these characters I mentioned, he will add something to your team. Now skill number 3 is called Quattro Pumpkin Shield. For 10 BP, that's pretty costly. He can only use this 4 times per battle. You get something that is fast, and you place him on an evasive stance that lasts for 1 turn. In that turn, he will not take damage, or ailment, or anything. He is immortal on that turn. And it will grant himself a heat up that increases damage potential by 20%, lasts for the whole fight. And why does he have this? Because he has 0 damage increase. The only thing he has access to was the morale up, small, and his intelligence boost. So he works well with the people that increases damage with attack boosts, morale ups with higher effects. And then grants the user a super hit passive. That is a permanent Malicious Pumpkin on overdrive. Okay, so we need to discuss this because this is the selling point of the character and it need not be so good as you think. When we saw the first data on Apollo, we didn't know the conditions to trigger Malicious Pumpkin. But now we know it's overdrive. But if you have been looking, there's 0 passives related to overdrive for Apollo. And characters that have skills related to overdrive usually have a passive that will give them overdrive gauge by the end of turn, like Global X Witch's daughter. She gets 15 points of overdrive by the end of a turn, and Festival Food skill also gives her 25 points of overdrive. That means that she gets to overdrive every 2 or 3 turns at most. And then we have other characters like Time, another character that has 15 points of overdrive by the end of turn. He even has another passive that can give himself and the party overdrive gauge. Junk Grab and Calrose still give him overdrive points. That means that he gets to overdrive in 2 or 3 turns on average. But that doesn't happen with Apollo. Apollo has nothing to help him increase his overdrive gauge. And Malicious Pumpkins, the skill that you will be using the most, only builds 15 points of overdrive gauge. When you get hit by an enemy, one hit gives you 8 points of overdrive gauge. That means that you need to be hit 2 times per turn and use Malicious Pumpkins every turn in order to get into overdrive after 4 turns if you don't have external support for overdrive. And that makes that character a little restricted into being used alongside a character that can give him overdrive. Of course, Witch's Daughter can give him overdrive and even BP. And looks like they designed him to be used like this. Remember, Witch's Daughter gives 15 points if you level this to level 99 and 3 points of BP. And he needs it because this uses 10 BP. Look. Okay, it has evasion, but I would prefer to not have the evasion part and just use the part where we get the Malicious Pumpkin chase. That is the thing that we need. Because without external resources, you use this on turn 1, then on turn 3, then on turn 5, and then on turn 7. Look how much time it takes to build up this character. And what is he doing in between? Nothing. Because he doesn't have a 0 BP skill. He'll be using normal attack if you want to save all BP you can. By turn 7, he will be on overdrive, and then on turn 8, you will be using the attack alongside the chases. So the damage is not even that great, to be honest. I know you get 20% hit ups every time, that means 80% damage increase, but that's something that you find in other characters as well. Hence why it's such a strange mechanic for Apollo. If you are paired up with Witch's Daughter, and Witch's Daughter uses that festival food at least 3 times on him, of course he's gonna be capable of loading Quadro Pumpkin Shield much faster and then start doing damage earlier. But we should not be considering a character when paired up with just someone else, even because we already have characters that can do very big damage without help of any outside source, like Silver, like Schuzer, like Leon, like Wayne, like Arthur. So why would you bring a character to make this other one work? Now, when you reach overdrive and want to use the chase attacks, you have to remember something. They will be used on rank 1. So the Malicious Pumpkins will do less damage and will buff Will by only 15%. So if you load all 4 Quattro Pumpkin Shields, you will have 60% Will buff in that particular turn, plus the 25% from the skill itself. Because you are on overdrive, you use a Malicious Pumpkin and you chase with 4 extra Malicious Pumpkin. 85 Will buff in a dedicated turn is very nice, right? The problem is that if you are loading the Quattro Pumpkin Shield in your fight, who is buffing your Will? Apollo? No, because he is just charging. So, will it really matter to buff Will by 85% after so many turns have passed? It's nice, but it's not game changing, it won't protect you, you will be relying on another Will buffer if you want to use this mechanic. Hence why it's so strange. I saw the damage potential on a video and I did not get impressed. It's way less damage than Leon, for example, and Leon can do it every turn. So just loading this mechanic to make use of the damage is not that great, and to make use of the Will buff is not that great as well, because you needed someone else before him to buff Will. So it's good in theory, but in real practice is not really that useful. Well, it's also worth to say that this mechanic is very similar to another one we found in T260G. These 2 characters create additional attacks for overdrive. In the case of T260G, he has to use Weaving Max, that's free, 0 BP, and he has a detrimental, a guard down effect that lasts for 3 turns, but that's not important anyway. He will survive pretty well, and you get this heal, 2 BP, and 10% heat up, so it's much different than Apollo having to use 10 BP. Like I said, I would trade off that evasion for a cheaper cost. And then you get the system overload that will use this attack here called Cosmic Rave on overdrive, and you can stack this 5 times for 5 uses of Cosmic Rave. Cosmic Rave has 73 mod triple S attack. Just compare this to 8 power. It's very different. But he can only use this once on overdrive. After the first overdrive, it's gone. But here you can stack all 5 usages one after another, and when you reach overdrive, you can already unleash the full potential of the character. I use a T260G on Carmine Remembrance with my gun team, and I kill it Carmine in 1 turn because of T260G. So you can see the utility, and even then I barely had any usage for T260G, hence why I question Apollo real usage. At least he still works well by just being a wheel buffer, and keep him like that, and use only 1 stack of the Quattro Pumpkin Shield when you see that he needs to evade to not die. You can use him like this, it works as a secondary wheel buffer just fine, and he can even heal and recover someone if you need in that emergency moment. But that's it, he was made for this. If you want to look in inheritance, there is Magi Aura that heals himself while giving Ward Up Medium, but it clashes with his version. I don't think this is good. There is Masamune Fury that is a stronger attack, but 8 BP cost. Well, I don't think this matters much. And from his other style, he has Paralyze with Meteor Swarm. Well, he will still be very good for Paralyze because he self-buffs intelligence, and at least this style is good defensively if you need to bring a Paralyzing Victor with AoE. There is also Poison from his S style for Carmine Remembrance battle. But this character looks too limited in my opinion. I will still give him an SS plus grade, because of the wheel buff being good and he being defensive, still having access to a recover. The Quattro Pumpkin Shield should be seen as a gimmick. It can work well, but it depends. You have to bring people that builds Overdrive Gauge, and if you don't, he's gonna wait too much to reach Overdrive, and even then he will need BP support in order to load all of his chase attacks, hence why it's a character that does not change how we play the game. And there's no future version of Polo so far in JP, hence why I think it's a pretty easy skip. And the last character is Arsenal. Yeah, in a pumpkin suit. Arsenal is a funny character, 4 status with the same values: Endurance, Dexterity, Intelligence, and Will. Agility is 90% and it's not that bad. Just forget about STR, Love, and Charisma. He was not made for this, but he can take some damage pretty fine. Moving for passives, we have the Toxinator Charge 2. He will cleanse from all status ailments by the end of a turn and recover 1 BP. He also starts the fight with 12. Then he has High Protect Tension, increasing damage potential by 20, reducing damage taken by 30. And then Iron Wall Defense 6, reducing damage taken by another 40. 2 damage reduction passives, 20% damage increase, 4 BP per turn, starts with 12. And cleanses. Well, pretty straightforward design. Skill number 1, Purple Blaster. It's a single target attack with B power that, when the attack lands, will debuff Will from the target by 15%. Thing to consider, it's a guarantee Will debuff. It doesn't care about his intelligence, it only cares about his dexterity because he needs to land the attack. Also, when the attack lands, has a chance to inflict poison. Here it will take his intelligence into consideration. That is good, but not the highest one we see, may still miss. But the good thing is that he became a very good Will debuffer by having this guarantee. Second skill, Laser Blaster. This is a full AoE attack with blunt and heat that inflicts paralyze to the targets. This was found in the Platinum version of Mac. Well, if you really need paralyze, it's nice because you can use this many times in a row, but current game content does not require this. In the right situation may be helpful, but not important. Now, the last skill is called Toxic Ghost Blaster. For 12 BP, you have a 4-hit attack that deals blunt and shadow damage, just like the first skill. And with each of the 4 hits, you will debuff the target's will by 15% on max level. That's right, that's insane. And also have a high chance to inflict poison. And that will be 4 different chances. His intelligence may not be the highest one in the game, but it's okay most of the time. And if there is a boss that you can inflict poison, you usually be able to. And well, It was made for Carmine Remembrance battle where you need to inflict poison. The bad thing is this is a random attack, so you may just want to use the purple blaster on Carmine first, just so that you inflict poison, and on turns there you can nuke Carmine, you can use Toxic Ghost Blaster because that will land 4 hits. But, well, this can be used in different situations for very nice results. The problem is that we don't get challenges where enemies can be inflicted with ailments that often. We had in the past tower events, you usually had bosses that could be inflicted with Paralyze, Charm, or different ailments like Poison, but they don't appear. Like 95% of the time, bosses have 999 resistance to everything. But if a boss has like 500 resistance or 600 resistance, you can still bring Arsenal and try to inflict ailments because he will probably allow you to. You can bring like Red Mage or Ruby if you want in the same party because they debuff more than 30%. And then even Orluge that debuffs will by 10% on turn 1. Then you have minus 100% will in turn 1. I mean, this is just for fun, but you can bring something like Magia Fight Formation, use this attack on turn 1, then use other debuffs or buffs to your party, and then the last character in the back tries to apply an ailment. And if that works, you will win the fight, but it's just that we don't have this type of content in the game right now. In theory, it's amazing, but in all reality, you won't be using it much. Now, for Inheritance, there is this spell called Heavy Nullifier that removes all buffs from targets. Well, it works, it's just the same thing that we saw on Esper Gal, where she will just do damage, remove all buffs from enemies, and also debuff. So, if you got Esper Gal in the same banner, just forget about this. And then there is Star Catastrophe for turn 2 damage, but this character was not made for damage anyway. His passive style was made for damage, but it's a little too late now. Damage potential is very limited, and it at least gives you shadow damage for turn 1. You can inherit it and use it instead of Force Blaster. But that's everything about this character. It's pretty simple and straightforward. If you get it, okay, but you should not be pursuing Arsenal because this type of strategy is very niche, and you can still win the Gun Remembrance by doing damage. So, this character receives a normal SS grade because of being a little limited for real applications. Still, in the end, I believe this character deserves an SS grade as a Will Debuffer because, well, he's a very good one. It's just that we don't really need Will Debuffers in the game right now. This is the last version of Arsenal, there's no future for the character yet on JP. With all that said, let's go back to the banner image, and is this banner worth summoning for? I have to say that yes, but not that much. If you already have Rocbouquet latest style, you can safely skip this banner. Yes. If you want Esper Gal, even then, she's a very good addition because when paired up with Rocbouquet, they are going to be very nice if the enemy does not defy weakness every turn. But it's overkill, like I said, and for Apollo, he's a character with a very limited gimmick for damage that takes too much time to charge, and even after he charges, he does not build up Overdrive Gauge so fast in order to use his damage attacks. And then Arsenal is a character made with a gimmick just thinking about inflicting poison on Carmine Remembrance battle, or for specific challenges where we can inflict ailments, and if you can, this guy is gonna be a beast, but that's just a very, very niche situation. This banner will receive a silver award as well, just like Creator's banner. It has some interesting characters, but in the end, it's nothing mandatory or must-have. But that's my opinion. What is yours? Please see here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching these videos. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links in the description. Hope to see you soon in the next one. Bye.